pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And the first item of business is for all of the newly elected officials to take the oath of office, and I'd ask that Misty would administer the oath to us at this time.
I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States.
I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
The Constitution of the State of South Dakota.
the Constitution of the State of South Dakota,
And the ordinances of the City of Hot Springs.
and the ordinances of the City of Hot Springs.
And that I will faithfully discharge the duties of alderman,
And I will faithfully discharge the duties of alderman, mayor,
mayor, thank you, for the City of Hot Springs to the best of my ability.
for the City of Hot Springs to the best of my ability.
Thank you. You'll need to sign your oath, so get with me to do that afterwards, and I have a certificate of right. You're welcome.
And I too would like to welcome the new members of the council. And those of you who are old timers and willing to serve, we appreciate your being here also. I just want to say a couple of words before we get started. Yours is a high calling of community service, and you've demonstrated the confidence that the people of Hot Springs have in you to carry out this duty. You have a big responsibility to ensure that the city functions within the laws and ordinances that are written. You have a fiduciary responsibility to ensure that we're spending our funds in an appropriate manner, and you have a responsibility to address the concerns of our citizens. Each of you should have a copy of the Code of Conduct that we ask for you to follow as a member of council. I have a Code of Conduct that I'm responsible to follow as mayor, and it's important that we watch after each other and follow that so that we project the professional image of the offices that we've been called to do. At this time, it's important that we do elect from among yourselves a president and a vice president. And those are very, very important functions, because in the event that as mayor I'm absent or would have to leave the position for some reason, that the council president would step in as the mayor, chief executive officer of the city. Also, the president and vice president share a fiduciary responsibility of being assigned to the financial accounts. So what we would do as the first order of business, I would ask for nominations for those among yourselves to serve, first of all, as president of the council. And then we will accept those nominations and then have a vote with a secret ballot to select the president, and then followed by that, we'll select the vice president. So at this time, I would ask for nominations from the council for someone to serve as council president.
I'd like to nominate Bob Nelson.
I'll second.
Okay,
Do you need seconds on
I think you do
nominations?
need seconds.
no, you don't need to
You just
second.
need to accept.
Just accept. And Bob, will you be willing to accept that nomination?
Yes.
Okay. Are there any other nominations?
Can I move that nomination cease?
And that would require a second.
I second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that nominations cease, and by acclamation, or I guess, is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried, and Bob, by acclamation, you are our council president. At this time, I would ask for nominations for the council vice president.
I'd like to nominate Skylar Wenzel.
Skylar, will you accept that nomination?
Yes.
Okay. Are there any other nominations for Vice President? Yeah, hearing none, I would accept a motion that nominations close.
I'll make that.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Marty made the second. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, and by acclamation and unanimous vote, Skylar, you are Vice President. Congratulations. Okay, we'll move on. Now that we have an official council, President, Vice President, and official mayor, we can move on to adopt the agenda. Again, a reminder, if there's any conflict of interest for anyone on the council as the meeting progresses and we discuss that, you have the responsibility to identify yourself and that conflict of interest. So at this time, I'd accept a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. You have in your packages minutes from the June 19th meeting. I realize that there are several of you that, 4 of you at least on council, that were not council members at that particular meeting, but even though you were not on the council, you can still approve these minutes, so long as you're agreeable that the minutes reflect what you believe happened or transpired at that meeting. And it really isn't necessary for you to abstain from approving the minutes if you're not at the meeting. If you are agreeable that the minutes reflect what happened, you may cast a yea vote. And a reminder that all of our meetings are recorded, and you have the opportunity to view those either through the Hot Springs website or the Chamber website, or the Chamber also carries that. So at this time, I'd accept a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for the June 19th.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes. Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. You should have also in your package bills in between, and we would look at those at this time. You should have had an opportunity to review those. A reminder that if you do have any questions on those bills in between, once you get your council package, it is recommended that you do resolve those questions prior to the meeting with Misty if at all possible. And if you still have objections, we certainly encourage you to bring those up at the meeting.
Can I mention one more thing since we're talking about it? The bills in between are typically bills like insurance, premiums, monthly things like that have been approved by the council to pay on a continuing basis, and library bills. I don't, is this on? Can you hear me?
It's plugged straight into the
Hello?
speaker system.
That's better. Library bills which are approved in advance by the library board. So those are the kinds of items you'll see in the bills in between listing as opposed to the current claims listings.
Okay, at this time, we'll go ahead and postpone our discussion and vote on the bills in between, because if you'll look down, we do have a public hearing that's scheduled to begin at 7:10. Just seconds away from 7:10, so okay, at this time, I'd open the public hearing for a use permit for 241 North River Street in Hot Springs, which is the Hot Springs Theater. It's requesting to have 2 poster-size off-premise sign locations. And this hearing is to allow public input on the subject of having the possibility of a business, in this case the movie theater, using their business to display a sign that advertises another unrelated business. In this instance, the city has used the 2 vacant spaces on the theater to advertise Evans Plunge Mineral Springs and the Southern Hills Golf Course. Are there any comments from the public concerning this off-premise sign? I see Kim at the microphone.
I just want to do a little housekeeping. I do have the certified letter returns. All of them came back. And I did have one person call, said that he had no concerns.
Okay, thank you, Kim.
I'm Barb Walter, 648 South 16th Street, Arborency 1. I was waiting to go into the theater to watch one of the movies, and a lot of people had noticed those 2 signs, so I approved those to be there because they decided, because I overheard them talking, they decided to go to the plunge because of those flyers being there. So I approved them being put there.
Well, thank you for that feedback. It shows maybe that advertising is working. Good.
Yeah.
Any other comments from the public? Any comments from the council? If not, at this, go ahead, Mark.
I'm just curious, these are already in that location?
They're already in that location, yes.
And then does the theater benefit by having?
Yes, and they would gain some advertising money, and I'm not familiar with the exact amount, but
I could answer that too. I'm the lucky person that got to say, hey, city, we need to get a permit for that. So what worked out though is that, in speaking with the theater owners, it actually increases their ability to, if we're not buying advertising there, they can advertise other events, other type of businesses. So it does increase their revenue stream, not by a whole lot, but it does, every little cent matters. And they are what have been on site since the theater was built. The last pictures that we saw of it was 1940, and those particular poster locations were there at that time.
thank you. Any other comments? If not, I will close the hearing at this time at 7:13, and I'll accept a motion from the council to accept a use permit for the Hot Springs Theater, requesting these 2 poster-sized signs.
I'll make a motion to accept the permit.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we do allow the Hot Springs Theater to have these advertising signs off premise. Is there any discussion or questions, comments from the council? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We will go back to item A then, bills in between. And I will accept a motion at this time to accept bills in between.
I'll make the motion to accept the bills in between.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any question, comments from the council? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We also have in your package a list of current claims. And Misty, can you explain what current claims are for all of us?
All of our bills are paid off of purchase orders and invoices submitted to us by our department heads and need to be approved in advance prior to payment, except for bills in between by you, our council members. The invoices and the purchase orders are available at City Hall for review. By the time your council packets are ready, they're in a pile that matches similar to this report. Any additional questions you may have are welcome. We appreciate a thoughtful approach to our finances, So you're encouraged, just please don't ask me zingers right here because I may not know the answer. We process a lot of claims, and so if you have a specific question about some weird named tool or something, maybe the water or sewer police department ordered, I might not have that information right offhand. So I appreciate a thorough review prior, and it's better to answer any questions at that time. If there's something you don't approve of, though, please bring it up at a meeting and discuss that too. I'm not saying you can't bring things up here, but if it's just a question about if we have budget authority or what that was that we purchased, if you could ask that prior to the meetings, and then if you want to express it at the meeting too, that's fine, but I'll be prepared to answer you appropriately if you do that.
Okay. I would accept then a motion to approve the current claims.
I'll make the motion to approve the current claims.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the current claims. Are there any questions, comments concerning the current claims?
Maybe Bob or Caroline can talk about how you review them for the new council members, if you don't mind.
I had a question too, though.
Okay.
I mean, if you guys want to go ahead. I just wanted to make a note that the library update for the computer software was one of our big expenses this time.
Call it the software for 1,000. It's an annual, and it actually went down compared to
That's
prior
right.
years. It's less.
Yes,
But it is. It's over
a big-
$1,000.
And I think people in the public should know that.
Oh, that's a small.
I know, it's really one of our,
200 in magazines, and it's the same batch of claims. So
Right,
say
right.
the software is important, and that's kind of small.
and we did have a lot of expenses of training this time. And Nolan left us, unfortunately, that was like $500 for that.
No, it wasn't 500.
Close.
The meeting was $50, and his travel was about 189.
And the motel, yeah. So anyway, it's unfortunate, because that was all at the end of the week.
That is.
Okay, that was all I had.
Any other discussion? Caroline or Bob, did you want to?
I think I'll let Bob do most of the talking, but Bob and I stay after the admin meeting and go over the bills with her and have questions. And then we ask Misty if there's anything she questions. And, someone else could see something that we miss, so the questions are appreciated.
Other approaches, Georgia will come in and she goes through the invoices on her own and looks at them and asks her questions based on her review of them,
So there's different ways of doing it. so.
There certainly are, and we encourage you to do that. And again, please, if there are any questions or disagreements, don't hesitate to bring them up. We aren't trying to silence anyone, but we would, but also a thoughtful review is part of your duties as a council person. Any further discussion on the current claims?
The packets are available for us Friday afternoon. The weekend is a good opportunity to review bills and highlight the ones that you have questions about. It's interesting that typically, my experience has been, everybody is kind of questioning the same bills by either name or by amount. But I understand what Misty is saying as far as not trying to put anyone on the spot here. The public deserves informed answers to our concerns. So asking her our questions ahead of time gives her an opportunity to speak to you and address specifically what our concerns are. And that's worked well for me. Misty takes the time to do that on Monday and has always been great about answering my questions. So I appreciate that.
Okay,
And
thank
I
you.
second that. Thanks.
Any other comments or questions? Now, we do have a motion on the floor to accept the current claims. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item C is credit cards, and at the first meeting of every month, we look at the credit card bills, and you don't see those generally on the second meeting of the month. So I would accept a motion to accept the credit card bills as printed.
Motion to accept the credit card bills as printed.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to accept the credit card bills. Any questions, comments, or discussion?
I do have a question on the publishing, both of them for, let's see, Wells Fargo credit card for the Prestige flags. One goes to
Which
the,
page and-
on the second page,
Okay,
one goes to the plunge and the other one goes to the golf course,
correct.
but they say everything for Prestige
Just
flags.
as they both ordered the same amount of flags for advertising at the golf course. So they each ordered and paid half of those flags that were ordered.
You're talking advertisement flags, is that what you're
Yeah,
talking? Okay.
they're golf, do you know, Skylar, how
Yeah.
they're set? Can you, because I don't.
So what are they like?
Every hole has like a flag
Yeah.
on the thing.
Oh, so it
And it
says,
advertises the
okay,
plunge.
okay,
So they kind of split the advertising cost.
okay, that's what I thought it was. I
We
wasn't
caught that
sure.
one too, so thanks for asking. When you see things like that, it's good to ask.
Okay, any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the credit card bills signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. At this time, open to have communications from the public. I was notified today that Mr. Betterman has a comment to make, and I invite you to come to the mic, Larry.
Good evening. I'm Larry Betterman, the chairman of the Hot Springs Airport Advisory Board. And at our meeting Friday, we discussed a number of issues. And what we would like is the council to put on the agenda for next meeting, and this is regard to the open meeting law, the terms of employment of the airport manager. Originally, it was a full-time position. And then during an interim manager's position, he only wanted to work part-time. And back in that period of time, there was only 12 18-based aircraft at the airport. Now we have 35. And we had added the city hangar, which is full. And that's a rental hangar. And the airport manager keeps it locked at all times for security purposes. And when we have transient aircraft come, they'll put their aircraft in there, and then of course the airport manager needs to be there for that aircraft owner to gain access to get the airplane in and out. Also, moving an airplane requires the airport manager to move, because if you run into one, it's quite expensive if you run into another aircraft. So the airport has 50 to 70 operations per month. Not like it used to be. The manager also needs to take care of the little items like when transits come in to go to town, they can use the courtesy car. They go to the plunge, they go to the golf course, so it's apparent that someone needs to be there. We're in the process of getting a new taxiway, and that will create almost twice the amount of snow plowing work out there in the wintertime. Of course, we can't predict the weather. We may have an open winter and there's not much snow there to plow, unlike last winter that it seemed like every time the airport manager wasn't working, that's when the big snowstorm came. And then, of course, there's more paperwork with what's going on. And then the big thing is the mining operation, when it starts kicking in out there, it's very important that we have the manager there to monitor that operation. So with those few bullets that I've just given you, we request that we be put on the agenda for next meeting to address the terms of working for the airport manager. Thank you.
Okay. Larry, again, thank you very much for the very detailed description of all the things that the best airport in South Dakota manager has to do. We do appreciate that. And
I can tell you, we can't write a job description that encompasses all of it. Ed does a wonderful job out there and never says no to any project that needs to be done.
Ed Jensen is a busy man.
He
Yes.
is. He keeps himself busy. He finds work to do and he does good work.
And what we'll do, this has come up as a budget item for the upcoming year, and certainly will be discussed during budget hearings at the end of the month. But I appreciate you coming here tonight and informing the council of the needs from someone that is very familiar with airport operations and can describe them in detail. You give a very clear and concise explanation. We thank you for that.
And thank you, and the new members, you're welcome to come out and take a look around and look at this great facility that we have.
Thank you.
Thank you, Larry.
Thanks, Larry.
Are there any other communications from the public? Seeing none, we'll move on to personnel. And you see a list of personnel actions. Generally, what we ask the council to do, unless there are any objections, to take these all in one fall swoop. So I would accept a motion.
Okay, before Ed leaves, it's his 5-year anniversary. You'll notice that is a step increase for 5 years of service with our city. Come back in here for 1 second. I'm sorry, Ed. So when you look at personnel, the first item A is Ed celebrating his 5 years with the city of Hot Springs. So congratulations.
And as I mentioned, that we generally do take these as one fall swoop unless there's some question or comments. So I would accept a motion to approve personnel actions A through E.
I'll make a motion to approve personnel actions A through E.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the personnel actions as listed, A through E. Any comments, questions, or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We will have an abbreviated committee report because some of our committees have been unfilled. And at this time, I'd just like to go ahead and announce what committees we have assigned the new council to. Again, this is not going to be set in stone. If you have objections or find that your interest lies somewhere else as the year progresses onward, I appreciate hearing and we can make those adjustments. But generally, we felt that the committees that individuals served on previous, those council people that remain on council have had experience in their particular area and agreed to stay on those committees. And then we'll have the new assignments, and I'll give those at this time. Administration and Finance, Carol Ann Schwarzenbach has been chair for that, and we appreciate her staying on. Our Airport Advisory Committee, Georgia Holmes has done an outstanding job of relaying information from the airport, and asked her to stay on, and she's agreed to do that. Custer Fall River Regional Waste Management District, we need a representative to attend those meetings. Ron Richards has indicated that he would be interested in stepping up and doing that, so we appreciate, Ron, you doing that. Downtown Historic Preservation Commission, again, Carol Ann has been active in that commission, and she's agreed to stay on. Thank you, Carol Ann. Evans Plunge Advisory Committee, we lose Kara Hagan, but Skylar Wetzel has stepped up and volunteered to take over that committee. I might want to point out that Skylar does have a degree in sports management, so from Chadron State, and we appreciate you using that to help us out with Evans Plunge. And I know, Georgia, you've been an active member on that committee, and we appreciate you and your inputs there also. Parks, Recreation, Beautification, and Cultural Development, Marty Meyer, I talked with him today, and he's indicated interest in that. Appreciate that, Marty. Planning and Zoning Commission, Don Olstad is our commission chairman, but Harleen Kane has volunteered to be our council representative. Harleen, again, we appreciate your interest in that. This is a very, very important commission. Public Safety and Public Works, Bob Nelson has done an excellent job chairing both of those committees. He has agreed to stay on. Thanks, Bob. Southern Hills Economic Development is a new assignment. We wanted to have a representative from the council, and Sam Powers has expressed an interest in economic development, so Sam If you'd be willing to attend those as a council representative, again, realizing, council, that Sam can't report on all things that go on at that meeting because some of the things that economic development discusses are privileged information for obvious reasons. The Southern Hills Golf Course Advisory Committee, Skylar Wetzel will continue to chair that. She's done an outstanding job there. Thank you, Skylar. And Volunteer Fire Department, again, Ron has offered to step up and be our council representative for the Volunteer Fire Department. And those basically then are our committees. Tonight, we'll have partial committee reports from those committees that have had meetings and have chairs that are here. So Administrative and Finance, Carol Ann, I know we had a meeting today. If you could summarize.
All right. A lot of the things we talk about at our meeting, Misty will talk about in her report, and the mayor will talk about, so I'll try to just give you brief highlights of what we discussed. Old business, city surplus, property was discussed. The finance officer will have information for the next admin meeting on the auction process. We would like this to be on the council agenda as soon as possible. Mid-year supplemental appropriation ordinance discussed, recommended for July 17th council meeting. New business, finance officer review of our monthly report. She also gave us a review from auditors regarding component unit audit. We looked at the budget process update. We discussed budgeting for the $1,000 toward employee deductible. The finance officer reviewed training at the workshop she went to with Karen. Review of summer rec baseball and t-ball totals recommended for transfer and approval by council at the June 17th meeting. The mayor gave us an update on the city administrator position opening, and the mayor gave the committee an update on recent safety concerns. That's all.
Thank you, Carol Ann. Airport Advisory Committee, Georgia, do you have anything to add to Larry's great report?
He gave a great one. We did ask, or I did ask them to work on some of their board requirements, and we did have to have. I always get it done.
So that they have a board that can be formed, and they were looking for new members, and I believe we do have one that's interested. And I thought that it would be a good idea if they wrote something up so that they would have a member with some airplane flying experience or something that pertained to the airport. So I believe they'll be working on that and bring it back to our next meeting. And yeah, a lot of things are going on out there. It would be good to go out and see the changes. They are taking up some of the old asphalt from the runway that was there, and that is going to be marketed possibly for sale, so that could be income for out there. They are looking at maybe having to get new tires for their tractor, and what's that?
They budgeted for it.
Yeah, I know. So he does a lot of mowing right now, and things are looking good out there, but yeah, it's going to be hot and dry right now. So, but I appreciate Larry Vetterman coming and talking, because there's a big concern with Pete Lean coming and doing mining out there and keeping an eye on what's going on, because their concern is, first it was 15 feet lower than the runway, now it's 45, and some things that I don't think they all had the information they'd like. So I would request that when Pete Lane comes and does talking, that at least Larry or someone from the board participate with the talks that go on with that.
Okay, great.
And Ed also.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Georgia. And as you can see, there's a lot going on, and we appreciate keeping up on us and keeping us up on it. Thank you. We don't have a report from the Fall River Regional Waste Management District, but Downtown Historic Preservation Commission, Carol Ann.
We met today. There was not a meeting in June. We approved several signs. We did some of it by email, but I'll read all of them to you. We approved the application at 401 North River. That's Black Hills Power Building, the old bakery building, the CHB sign, I believe that's next to Cenex, Pistol Patty sign, that was old business. And then today we approved at 142 South Chicago Street, it'll be junk and disorderly. Red Rock sign for a restaurant, that's pending the application, but it'll be approved as soon as we have that. And the sign for the Flatiron Building, same thing, will be approved as soon as we have the application. Kim discussed creating a tour of our vacant buildings, and that has the approval of everyone on the committee. It sounds like a really good idea. And a 1-year limitation on new occupancy signs. We've asked Kim to enforce that, please. New boundaries and enabling ordinance. This is being worked on by the Historical Commission of South Dakota, and they're working hard on it, and we'll get back to you on that. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Carol Ann. Evans Plunge Advisory Committee, we don't have a representative. We do have a meeting coming up on the 20th, so the 20th will be the first meeting, Skyler, for that. Parks and Recreation, Beautification and Cultural Development, again, we did not have a chairperson for that. The next meeting for the Parks and Recs will be the 10th of July at 3 p.m. at City Hall. Planning Zoning Commission, Kim, I'd ask you to give us an update on that, please.
Well, first of all, we'd like to welcome Harleen. This is the first time since I've been on that we've had a council member, so we're excited to have you there, and I'll be sending you a welcome package.
Thank you.
Our meeting is the third Wednesday of every month at 7 o'clock. This month it's July 19th. At 7 o'clock we're having 2 public hearings. They're always public meetings, so that you're welcome to come to any of them. One will be a variance request, and one will be an ordinance recommendation for City Council. We also have been working on some other surplus city property discussions, and we should be tying that up through a Survey Monkey vote this week. So you'll be hearing more about that.
Okay. Thank you, Kim. Public Safety,
Public safety, is it on? Public safety met on, how about this one?
That one works.
Public safety met on the 21st. Chief Close was there, Mayor Gotti, Nolan, Tim, and myself. We had 2 old business items. We are reviewing the city's animal ordinance for swine and rabbits, and the council has in your information side of your packet, you have that ordinance with the suggested changes that came out of the committee. So hopefully that will be on the agenda at the next council meeting. Specifically,
On the right, or the left-hand side.
What is in the ordinance?
it's chapter 4, animal ordinance. This particular one is talking about better defining swine in the city. So that's in your packet. Other old business item we had, we're working on a flood plan response that's required by the United States Army Corps of Engineers to be completed by the end of the year. And as part of that, we'll also be working on a greater emergency preparedness plan for the city. We had some new business items. The Chief of Police gave us an update on the Miss South Dakota Parade. Observing Captain Wayman, he looked like he was working the crowd quite well. He was interacting with them, and they were responding real well to him, so I appreciate him doing that. Police department has seen an increase in traffic with warmer weather. The tourists are coming to town. And the animal control officer has also seen an increase in snakes, so watch out for those as you're out and about on your property. The other section, another item in the animal ordinance, that the language is being changed, has to do with aggressive animals, particularly dogs that bite. So take a look at that. That will be hopefully up for consideration at the next meeting. We also had a request to put an additional street light on a utility pole up around Albany Avenue up on College Hill. Residents are concerned that the lighting in the alley isn't adequate. So we asked city staff to take a look at that, see what the cost would be in adding the light itself and an increase on the light bill, city's light bill. We had an update on the signage out at the golf course in front of the clubhouse. There will be a 15-minute limit, short-term parking for folks to unload and get back in their vehicles. That's it for public safety. The next meeting will be on the 19th at 2 p.m. at City Hall.
Thanks, Bob. And can you update us on Public Works, please?
Public Works was on the 27th. Tracy was there, Nolan, the mayor, and myself. A little longer agenda. The shared parking with Wells Fargo that we've talked about in the past, we're not going to pursue that anymore. Wells Fargo wanted $15 in space for the city to utilize that space, or that property. And as far as the city funding that, that's not something that we felt we would be interested in doing. Possibly the Chamber of Commerce and the businesses themselves, if they feel that that particular parking lot would be beneficial, that's something they can approach Wells Fargo with. The other thing that we talked about is, rather than focusing on Wells Fargo, there is some parking spaces available along River Street that the city can look at to expand, hopefully at minimal cost. The idea behind looking at these additional parking spaces is to be prepared for when the state comes through and rebuilds Main Street and have additional public parking for them. Surplus building lots, surplus property for building city lots. The two lots that we've been looking at are the old water fill station and the old armory. At this point, looking at the cost to remove the building that's on the old water fill station lot would be a lot less expensive than trying to remove the old armory. So more focus will be put on the old water fill station property. Shedco will be looking at working with the Governor's Office of Economic Development to come up with a grant possibly or funding an assessment of that property to make sure that there aren't any contaminants or anything on the property. The sewer line extension on Fresno, that's being reconsidered. Since the last Public Works meeting, a resident on Fresno Avenue approached the city. They now have a failing septic system, and I'm wondering what the city can do to help them out with that. The cost of extending that sewer line would be about $10,000 to $11,000, so discussions are still ongoing on what would be the best way to do that. Chip and seal the city streets. The recommendation from Tracy and the street department is to chip seal all of 5th Street and a number of the cross streets between 5th and 6th Streets. New business. We had a resident approach us about receiving a double billing. They have 2 meters on their property with only 1 curb stop, and they asked the city to disable one of those meters to a garage that's on the property, so they don't have to pay for that particular meter bill. The sludge to water device we've been talking about repeatedly. A pre-construction meeting will be scheduled with the contractor to determine the start date for the installation of that equipment. Boulder Falls Construction, Quinn Construction met with the Boulder Falls property owners. Construction is expected to begin in late July, with the asphalt being applied in late September. And the city crews completed some asphalt patching at multiple locations. And that was finish up work for the different sewer projects and water projects that they worked on to repair. The next meeting of the Public Works will be next week, July 11th, City Hall, 2 o'clock. They're all welcome.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Really appreciate that. Southern Hills Golf Course Advisory Committee, Skylar?
Our next meeting will be this Friday at 5 o'clock at the maintenance shop.
Okay, thank you. And Volunteer Fire Department, Ron, the next meeting for that is tomorrow night at 7 at the fire hall. We'll get you going early. Okay, go ahead.
Just a question, I didn't catch the date on that, the Fall River Regional. I understood that was quarterly or something.
I don't have it listed. We'll have to check and find that out for you. Again, for all of you, you see that our council is busy and the committees are busy doing a lot of things, discussing a lot of things, and so we appreciate the hard work that you all do to bring that information before us here at this meeting, before the public. Thank you. I don't see Andrea here, but
I'm her.
okay, go ahead. Are you prepared to
Sure.
give the update? Great.
Pass those down.
Good evening, I'm Kelly Cape. I'm the president of the Southern Hills Economic Development Corporation for this year. Andrea might be stopping in a little bit later. She went over to Edgemont tonight to meet with the city council over there to give them an update. And we passed out just a little postcard. We've got an event coming up next Monday night at 6:30 at the hall. It's for what we call the Dakota Fellows Program. We work with Dakota Resources, and they've got a program, what they call Dakota Fellows. It's geared towards small business owners that are just starting out or have got a couple years under their belt. And the program is designed to hook them up with some other individuals across the state that would be in the same type of business that they have as a mentorship type deal. Right now, we do have one new fellow for this year. Kurt Lau with Mammoth Signs was selected for 2017. And we've got a couple individuals in Hot Springs that went through that program in the past. So we're trying to stir up some more interest on that. We're hoping that we've got 6 or 7 people, business owners that have expressed an interest. So if you know of anybody that's got a small business, they're sure invited to come to this Monday night at the Hall. Just an informational session for them to see what it's all about. And Kurt would be an excellent one to visit with if anybody had any questions on that. I wanted to give an update to the City Council. We've been talking about trying to come on a quarterly basis just to let you know what SHEDCO's been doing, keep you informed, kind of let you know what we're looking at. Some of what I'll talk about tonight is a little update from when I was here a couple months ago. Housing is still one of the main issues that we're concentrating on. Just knowing that the housing study that was completed, I believe about a year ago, reflected the need for what we call workforce housing in the Hot Springs and in Fall River County. And the difficulty that we've been hearing from various employers around the county of people wanting to relocate here, but having a tough time finding housing that is suitable and the right price range for them. So we're continuing to work on that. One of the things that SHEDCO started, it was roughly a year ago, was what we call that community engagement process that we worked with Dakota Resources on. And one of the committees under that is a housing committee. They've been meeting very regularly with a lot of the contractors and local developers, continuing to look at how do we do something. One of the things that we're looking at right now is trying to acquire some land. We're in some negotiation stages yet. But if we're successful in that, then we'd be looking at trying to get some development going to look at that workforce housing. And we're looking in that price range of probably 150 to 175, something that is affordable for a family family with 2 wage earners. And it might include some rental or some apartment complexes. So that's something that we continue to look at. We're still working with Bobby and Trish Ladner with PR Marketing. They're redoing our website. We hope to have that up and running, the new website, within another month or so here. Our old website's still out there, but we're going to a new platform with them that's a little bit easier for us to keep updated. The one that we have right now, we'd have to hire somebody to update that based on how it was developed. So we're looking at kind of a cost savings deal of once Bobby and Trish are able to update the new one, then Andrea and the board members can easily update that. And we're adding a lot of things regarding Fall River County. We're tying in the healthcare, the hospital, the clinics, trying to get more information to where, like Evans Plunge as an example, there's a quick link to where they can just go right there. Trying to get a little more user-friendly to where we're targeting the audience that we want to target. Those people that want to move here to work or move here to retire, because that's a big avenue for us on that too. We're still looking at an industrial park. We've been in negotiations with a couple individuals who are trying to acquire that property for about 8 months now. Still making progress, hoping that we can get that finalized yet this summer to where we have a chance to actually have some property that we can ear tag as an industrial park, with the idea that that could at some point get annexed into the city, and we know we have to work with the city on that process to do the partnership for bringing in everything. And knowing that it's not going to be a quick process, getting the land's probably going to be the easy thing. Then it's going to be figuring out how we're going to cover the costs for bringing all the infrastructure and get it site ready. But that's one thing that we've been running up against a little bit in the past when we have new companies that express an interest to relocate. We really do not have an industrial park available for them right now. So that's one of the things that we're continuing to push on. You've probably seen a little bit in the paper, and Andrea's talked about what we call our geothermal study. It hasn't been officially announced yet, but we were able to receive a grant through Rural Development. It's in its finalizing stages. And what we're looking at there is trying to take all the information that's out there as far as where the geothermal wells are, but taking that and developing that to a point where we could hand a proposed business plan to somebody that wants to look at, say, a vegetable operation with a coop barn or whatever type of a setup they might have. So the idea of this isn't just to say, well, we've got these geothermal wells. It's to get to a point where we can say, here's how you can set up your operation. Here's a model business plan that you could utilize, and trying to get that moving ahead to where we can take advantage of that. We've had a couple individuals actually express interest already, just from seeing what we've had in the news about the project. So that's one of the big projects for probably the next, that's going to be a 2 to 3 year project. It's not going to be anything quick. And ideally probably patterned over towards the Edgemont area, because we know that's where a lot of the geothermal resources are for us. Natural gas, continuing to work. You know, there's been a lot of talk about Black Hills Energy and potentially trying to bring natural gas to town through what they call a tank, you know, truck it in type deal. Continuing to work with Black Hills Energy to put them in front of the local businesses and entities that could utilize that. And that's really looking positive and moving forward fairly quickly. So hopefully, I know the big one right now that's been in the news is Fall River Feedlot being a potential source that can take advantage of that. A lot of cost savings there. There was a little discussion, Bob talked a little bit about the old water fill station, and I think it was about a week or two ago, Andrea wrote a grant to submit to the South Dakota Department of DENR to help fund the cost of having somebody come in and take a look at it for any environmental concerns. We've also been in discussions with George about some other grant opportunities that are out there through the Governor's Office of Economic Development, and hoping that they'll get broadened in their scope to where we could also help the city apply for some of those grants to maybe actually help cover some of the costs of the demolition and cleanup that you'd be looking at. So that's an ongoing thing there. A lot of stuff going on. You know, we've got a lot of irons in the fire and just trying to keep moving ahead on everything. We look forward to working with you, Sam, and welcome you to our meetings. We'll make sure that we get in contact with you on those. So, and I would like to continue to come in on a quarterly basis, myself or Andrea, and just give you an update as to where things are at and answer any questions that anybody has. But that's all I had. George, unless anybody had any questions, should we want to take?
Any of the council members have any questions for Kelly?
I don't, but thanks a lot, Kelly. You guys have done an awful lot. I really appreciate it.
One thought that I forgot, George, looked at my notes. Andrea had looked back for the number of new businesses that opened up on Main Street within the last year. And I don't remember the exact number, 7 or 9, but of those, she had visited with each individual, either helping them get to the right person to do a business plan or help them in some format with what they were looking at. So that's been good.
Okay. And just as you're speaking, a compliment of Andrea, guess who walks through the door behind you?
I didn't hear it.
Bad timing.
She didn't hear it. She needs you to repeat it.
I'll tell her tomorrow.
Sorry, I just came from Edgemont. They had their board meeting tonight too.
Okay. We did hear a very complete report from Kelly, but if you have anything to add, Andrea, we sure offer you the opportunity.
Only that I really hope you can make it to our Dakota Rising event on Monday night. It's really important for us to put together a pipeline of people who are eligible to participate in the program. It puts a lot of momentum behind the small businesses in town. And the more people who are fully aware of the program, the better we can be as a community.
And I think we really appreciate the report. One of the things that I just want to point out, I think one of the things that we as a council and as a city need to do as we look to build our community, it's important that we invest our money into something that can pay a return. Things like helping businesses get started. We realize they pay property taxes, sales tax revenue that keeps the city growing and functioning. And many of the small businesses have a hard time surviving everywhere. And this Dakota Rising offers them that hand up. So we appreciate the work you're doing in that area. We also want to thank you for the help you've given us in the housing. We know that we have a dire need for workforce housing. We appreciate partnering with you and the help that you've given us getting grants through DENR and also helping amplify our voice to GOED to get those tear down grants. So thank you for all you're doing. We appreciate it. And we certainly want to remain being your partner. And that's one of the reasons that we asked Sam to be a part of the board and attend the meetings so that we can have a first-hand opportunity to participate in what's going on. Thank you.
I have one other item, if you have one more minute.
We sure do. Go ahead.
Kelly said he had not addressed. On August 4th, which is a Friday night, right at the beginning of the Sturgis Bike Rally, Shedco, as part of Rushmore Region, will be hosting the Wounded Vets Ride. It's a therapy ride from LA to Sturgis. We had it here last year, and it went almost unnoticed. I know that Don Ackerman took out an escort of bikers to meet them in Edgemont and bring them in. I think it would be really good if we could do something a little more notable this year. I don't know what that might be, but they put out videos that go viral about the fact that they came to a town. And so it's a good opportunity for us to market our town and to show that we do care about our vets. They'll be having supper at Woolies, and that's the part that we are hosting.
Okay, great. And one other suggestion there too, I don't know if you've been working with Scott at the Chamber, but you know, they can certainly help too in that area, and we certainly are on board and happy and welcoming. It would be hard for the veterans town to turn away a veterans group, that's for sure. So thank you for working with that also. Any other comments or questions concerning SHPO? Thank you very much for the update.
Thanks, you guys.
Okay, we'll move on to new business. Our first item on new business is setting a potential motion to have a public hearing at 7 p.m. on 17th of July for an ordinance 1181, which amends Chapter 11, 19, and 27 to provide changes for establishing adult-oriented businesses in Hot Springs. And what you should have in your packages is a draft of that ordinance. Because we are amending a zoning ordinance, a public hearing is required, and an agenda item would be setting the public hearing for the next council meeting, and we would hold that hearing at 7:10. Now, we don't have any adult businesses that we know of that are interested in locating in Hot Springs, but if they did, we have no means of enforcing where they locate. And we want to be able to control that so that we keep them away from schools, perhaps downtown business areas where churches are located and so forth. And so what that ordinance provides us the legal means to do that, and it's much easier to do that ahead of time than it is if one and a business such as that would come into town and locate. So I'd accept a motion to set that public hearing at 7:10.
I'll make a motion to set the public hearing at 7:10 for ordinance 1181.
I'll second.
Okay, and that hearing would be on the 17th of July. Any discussion, comments, questions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
How exactly did this issue come up?
It came up when we realized that we did not have the means of identifying where to locate a business like that. There's no hint or anything. As Kim was reviewing the ordinances, she realized that we didn't have a way of making that location. Good question.
Okay.
Is it a plan?
Any other comments, questions? Yes.
Chris and I discussed this matter, and we are kind of requesting that it be tabled to the first August meeting.
Okay.
Because we would like to have further time to review it and possibly discuss any concerns with the council.
Okay.
Well, council member.
Okay, and that's the first I heard that you had some concerns of wanting to review it more thoroughly. At that time, that request, I think, from our legal counsel would ask that we would have an amendment to the date of that motion.
I would amend my motion to August 4th.
That'd be fine.
All right. For 1181.
Is there, who seconded the original motion?
Marty.
Okay. And so we do have an amended motion to change the date of the meeting to the 4th of August. Any other discussion? Thanks, Garland, for bringing that up. We certainly want to have that reviewed thoroughly. If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We'll have the hearing, the first meeting in August. Item B, we're looking at a possible motion and discussion to approve a clean and lean for 2514 Washington Avenue. I think Kim has some updated information, even updated from that information that you had in your packages.
Yeah, today I had gotten a phone call and had spoken directly to Mark Larson, who's taking responsibility for the cleanup of 2514 Washington. He said that he has one last load that needs to be removed. The person who's doing the removal, however, won't be able to get there until Friday. He was asking for an extension. We can visit this at the next meeting just to verify that he's met his requirements before we would need to take any action, or at that point say no action is necessary.
How do you feel, Ken?
I'm fine with it. Actually, talking with Mark, it was the first time I was able to talk to somebody from this home, and he was very open. He was embarrassed that it took him this long to talk to me. But once I'm able to talk with people, we can work out plans, and that's the biggest thing. If people can just give me a call, that's the easiest way to get things moving.
Okay. I'll make a motion with the extension for the clean and lean on 2005-14 Washington Avenue.
Okay, we have a motion to extend, and how long would you, 2 weeks?
Would 2 weeks be enough?
Can we just table it? Because we don't even have a clean and lean yet to
Yeah.
extend it.
Yeah, we can just table it to the next
catch,
meeting.
Misty, thank
Okay,
you.
I'll make a motion to table it to the
That'd be
next
fine.
meeting. Thanks, Ken.
Is there a second? Okay, we've got a motion to table the clean and lean for 2514 Washington Avenue. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That clean and lean will be tabled until the next meeting. We also have possible motion and discussion to begin legal action on a property located at 314 South 6th Street. Again, you have the information in your packet. And Kim, can you provide us an update on this property also?
Because I had sent an email update to everybody on this when I met last Friday with the homeowners. They had a less than positive experience with my department in previous years. They were not willing to reach out and contact me for fear of repercussions. Finally, we were able to meet again whenever I put out the letter asking them to come to the meeting to, basically share their side of things. And once we were able to get past the past experiences, we were able to figure out what their goals were, what was stopping them from meeting their goals, and what they needed to do to get organized and clean up their property. They were supposed to be here tonight. I still have their phone number. We were planning on meeting on Friday to sit down, husband and wife and me, and start working on a cleanup plan if the council felt that it would be okay to give at least a 60-day working period to work with them to get this cleaned up. They have a great deal of work to be done, and one of the things that would help them is to be able to tear down a garage that's not in good condition and replace it with a larger one further back so that they can actually have parking against the alley. Both of those things had been denied them in the past for no apparent reason. So it will take a little bit of time to do some construction, but I think we can get some basic positive motion there where the neighbors will feel like we're actually getting some traction and getting some things done.
Okay, thank you, Kim. I would recommend that we table this since those property owners are not here tonight, rather than to vote on giving a 60-day extension. So we will table this until the next meeting and take a motion to table this until the next meeting and then take it up again with the potential of beginning legal action if that meeting Friday does not turn out.
I'll make a motion to table the legal action on 346 South 6th Street.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we table the beginning legal action on 346 South 6th Street. Any further discussion, questions, or comments? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And Kim, I do want to thank you very much for publicly for the job that you do in working with our citizens. We obviously want to take care of the blighted properties that we have within our community, and Kim does an excellent job of getting that done. I drove by the Washington property today, and the property is 100% better than it was a month or so ago. So we really appreciate your work, and it helps our community to get those properties cleaned up. So thank you.
Thanks a lot, Kim. I appreciate it.
I also would like to thank Kim. There's been a number of properties in Ward 4 that have needed attention, and what I appreciate most is the fact that Kim puts the property owners, she recognizes that it's their property, and that the city doesn't need to be strong-handed these folks to, get them to come into compliance. She's working with them, so thank you, Kim. I appreciate that.
Okay, we'll move on to item D. We do have the need to do some administrative work here concerning our finances. We'd be looking for a motion to approve changing the Wells Fargo Bank of the West and First Interstate account signature cards to remove Nolan Schroeder, Tim Tesher, and Georgia Holmes, and adding our newly appointed council president and vice president. So we would add to those accounts Bob and Skyler.
Can I make that motion?
You sure can.
I make a motion to approve changing the Wells Fargo, I don't know if you can hear me, Bank of the West and First Interstate account signature cards to remove Nolan Schroeder, Tim Tesher, Georgia Holmes, and adding Bob Nelson and Skylar Wetzel.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, been moved and seconded then that we add, remove the Nolan, Tim, and Georgia from the signature cards and add our new council president, Bob, and vice president, Skyler. Any discussion, comments? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. We also have in your package a motion to approve a training request for one of our young police officers, Officer Schaefer, for a August 13th through 18th interview and interrogation program training in Pierre. And I just want to point out to all of us, we do have a young police force, and every opportunity that we can to garner some training for our police officers, we truly want to support. But our personnel policy does require prior approval of the council before they can attend this training. So it's good training. It's offered by the state of South Dakota Police Academy, and it would improve our capability of interrogating those that we would have to bring in for interrogation, I guess. So I accept a motion at this time to send Officer Schaefer.
I'll make a motion that we send Officer Schaefer on 8/13 through 8/18 to the interview and interrogation training in Pierre.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to send Officer Schaefer to interrogation training. Any comments or discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Move on in our agenda to the Finance Officer's report. Misty?
Thank you, George. On the left side of your packet, so the first meeting of the month, I will provide a standard set of reports for you to review that show you the financial position of the city, where we're at compared to our budget or our plan, where our investments are, what we've made year-to-date in profit, what we've spent. The reports are summarized, so there are definitely reports that show more detail. It's meant to provide an overview, but not meant to answer all your questions. So
I summarize each one of the reports you'll see every month and then also provide you some updates for what's going on in the finance office. We can talk in depth about any of these numbers, and like I said, we can drill down to more detail in any of the numbers that you see on here if you're interested. Now, as a reminder for both the council and the public in attendance, our 2016 audit will be presented by our auditors at our next council meeting, Monday, July 17th. We are having a meeting which I have posted a notice of quorum for, or will be posting the notice of quorum for, at 6 p.m. that same night here at the Mueller Center with Cato to go through a more thorough review of the audit, to give you an opportunity to ask some more in-depth questions, but then also give them an opportunity to give a brief summation during the council meeting at 7. As many council members as want to come are invited. This is a good time to remind you of the quorums. 4 is okay, 5 is not. That's the rule I remember in my head. And the only time 5 is not is if we haven't posted a notice of quorum. So anytime you attend any events that you've been invited to tonight, you may want to discuss with other council members if they're going to be in attendance as well. It takes 24 hours advance notice to have more than 4 of you at any one event where any type of city business would be discussed. If y'all show up at the movie theater and sit in different places, that doesn't matter. But if you go to a SHEDCO meeting where they're talking about housing and that's an issue in the city and you can meet with the other council members and talk about what you heard, we need to post notice for that. I talk about budget in my memo to you, and I summarize some of the things, the big buzzwords that come to mind when we talk about budget. I definitely take very seriously the responsibility of our taxpayer dollars, and I hope that you do too. George, thank you for the great summary and providing me an opportunity to explain to them reviewing bills. That's where it starts. Next, at the end of this month, in fact, we'll be having budget hearings on the 26th and the 27th of July, starting at 5 o'clock at City Hall. I don't get paid for these, but all of you are expected to attend. Typically, we can get our budget hearings done in 2 meetings, but more time is necessary if needed. They're important conversations. We expect to go from about 5 to 8 both nights, and we'll schedule another one after the first 2 if we need it. But right now, we just have the first 2 scheduled.
But they can run over.
They can.
Oh, absolutely. They don't necessarily
gone.
No.
They have gone over. If we're on a roll and we want to keep going, we definitely can. So be prepared for some good discussions and some late nights. In my memo too, I also talked about the mid-year supplemental appropriation ordinance. You heard Carol Ann talk that we discussed that at our admin finance meeting. Because changes to our budget authority requires supplemental appropriations, and those take 2 readings, passage, and publication in a paper. We try to do those only 2 times a year, so mid-year and the last time of the year that we can is somewhere in November, to address any emergencies or any additional expenses this council has approved that maybe we didn't know at budget time. The housing plan was one of them. Or if we receive donations and we want to expend those resources or those new revenues, this is how we do it. I also, in my memo to you, wanted to discuss the city administrator absence and how he did way too good of a job doing what he did for us not to feel that. There is no way that business will go on as usual, so please bear with all of us and let's all work together as we go through this time and transition when we don't have him. Just wanted to make sure that you all know that. Do the best I can, and everyone at City Hall is committed to doing the best we can, but he just did too good of a job for us not to feel it. And then I'm grateful to see our new council members interested and available to attend the upcoming elected officials training. I gave a report on the workshop that I went to with the assistant finance officer at admin finance meeting today, and I've got to tell you, they put on good workshops. More than what's on the agenda is discussed, more information than you can imagine is shared, and you'll gain more knowledge than you expected. I promise you that. And I'm excited that all of our new council members will be attending that elected officials workshop in here.
Thank you, Misty.
Thank you.
As far as the next item, which is the mayor's report. I just wanted to let you know that we have begun the search for a new city administrator, and we'll be talking about that a little bit more detail in executive session. I chose to do that executive session because some personnel issues may come up that would need to be an executive session for. A couple of things. I would love to take credit for all the great fireworks last night. If I were running for office, I would say yes, I did it, but I really didn't. We had a leftover from the fireworks that were not done last year, and we had a real spectacular show. And I really appreciate our people that helped make that possible, led by Steve Alexander. I'd like to publicly thank him. I'd like to thank Chris Katke, who assists, and several of the other city personnel that worked very hard to get the site ready, grass mowed, the fire department under the direction of Dar Coy. Were on duty last night, and everything worked real well in a spectacular show. We also want to thank the Chamber for all of their activities during the 4th of July to help keep people here in Hot Springs, and we certainly appreciate celebrating the 4th of July in Hot Springs. I think it was a great show, and was pulled off safely and spectacularly. And I didn't have anything to do with it. One of the things I would like to address tonight, and we've had a rash of burglaries in Hot Springs. I would ask that the citizens of Hot Springs be particularly cautious and careful. Please be careful to secure your property, lock your doors, lock your car doors, and watch what's going on in your neighborhoods. If you see anything suspicious, please call the police, because we want to get this stopped. I've authorized our police force to have overtime so that we can have extra patrols in our neighborhood areas. And I think that that's important, but we need to be watchful, and just simply having extra patrols is simply not going to solve the problems. I would also caution the citizens to be careful of the rumors that you hear. Obviously, I can't share the details of how the investigations are going on, but we've heard all kinds of very interesting stories about what's happened, and some of them are not necessarily true. So I would encourage you not to believe everything that is going on and that you hear, but please believe me, our police department is working hard to get the cases solved, and we're doing everything we can to help prevent that in the future. And I just wanted you, the council, to know that, and the public to also be aware of that. At this time, I would accept a motion to go into executive session. I don't think that we'll have any actions as a result of it, but it's more informational.
Motion to go into executive session.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to
I'm
go
sorry, I
into.
missed a second.
Pardon.
Thank you.
And so we will depart for executive session at 8:23. And Garland will be remind all the council members, we do have a policy for contacting our attorney. Obviously, you as council persons have the right to contact the attorney at any time, but I would ask that you would go through me, and so that we can make sure that we're not asking, 5 of us are asking the same question or different forms of the same question. And then if you do ask a question on a particular issue, that you be prepared to share with the rest of the council so that we know what the answer you received was. And I think that's pretty straightforward and simple. And They'll help eliminate some of the confusion that we've had in the past. That said, we'll accept the motion for adjournment.
I'll make that motion.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.